I'm meteorologist Chris Michaels, and you're watching Weather Homeschool. In today's episode, we're talking all about hurricanes. Even though hurricane season doesn't start until June, still helpful to know how they work. And they can even impact us around here. If you remember back to 2 years ago, we had Florence and Michael. While they weren't graded as hurricanes while they were passing through here, still gave us a lot of flooding in parts of Roanoke and parts of Southside as well. But we're going to start out today's lesson with a piece of trivia that's going to help us moving forward. So here's the question. There's 3 possible answers. How warm must the ocean water be for a hurricane to form? A, 65, B, 73, or C, 80 degrees? Pause the video, and when you think you have the right answer, unpause, and we'll give you the correct answer. So you've had some time to think about it. The ocean water must be at least 80 degrees Fahrenheit. That's how these hurricanes can really start up. They really feed off the warmer water, and they can get especially stronger if ocean temperatures are in the mid to upper 80s like they can sometimes be in the Gulf and in the Caribbean. So that's just piece number 1 of how hurricanes form. This is one of the questions I get most often when I visit schools. But there has to be a pre-existing storm. Think back to episode 1 where we talked about low pressure being lousy weather because the air rises. Well, you're taking that warm air from the ocean, you're lifting it, you're getting a storm going. At the same time, there has to be a very little bit, if not like no, wind shear. You don't want the wind to be changing very much because that can actually tear up the storm. Hurricanes like to be like stacks of pancake. They like to be very even, whereas if you have all that wind kind of tearing it up from the outside, then it would actually weaken. So it's because of all these 3 factors that hurricane season starts in June and it ends in the end of November. That's when hurricanes or tropical storms form most often. But the peak for hurricane season, look at these 2 shades here, the brighter red and the slightly darker red. That's tropical storms and hurricanes. The peak of hurricane season, when these things happen the most, tends to be in August and in September. So we also name hurricanes, and this is something that we get asked a lot. So I want you to once again pause the video here and think about why it might be that we name hurricanes. So naming hurricanes is something that's happened since about 1950, and it's really just an easy way to keep record of these storms. So for 2020, here are the names for the Atlantic Ocean. Okay, so we start out with A and we end up at W. The A name is Arthur, B is Bertha, Cristobal, Dolly, Edward, Faye, Gonzalo, Hannah, Isaias, Josephine, Kyle, Laura, Marco, Nana, Omar, Paulette, Renee, Sally, Teddy, Vicky, and Wilfred. Those are the names for the 2020 hurricane season. And if a storm is too strong, if it causes too much damage like Katrina did in 2005 or like Florence did in 2018, then those names are never used again. Now, I don't get to name them. The World Meteorological Organization actually has a panel that names storms for 6 years at a time. The other thing that happens, though, is we actually kind of grade these storms with something that's called the SaffirSimpson Scale. Now, this only takes into account the wind, and you have to know that flooding is the biggest threat when it comes to a hurricane, especially this far away from the ocean. The biggest impact that we see here in Virginia is actually flooding. But the SaffirSimpson Scale goes from Category 1 to Category 5, with Category 5 obviously being the strongest, Category 1 having the weakest winds. But Florence, when it made landfall in North Carolina, was only a Category 1, but it also dropped 2 to 3 feet of rain on parts of North and South Carolina. So we've got one little experiment for you guys to do. Since we're talking about wind, we're going to make an anemometer. An anemometer is an instrument that measures the wind speed. And so we have to take a few things from home in order to make this. I don't have the tools here, so we've got a graphic to help show you step by step how to make a homemade anemometer. So there's a few things we need. The cupcake liners, you know when you eat a cupcake and you have to peel away at it, you need the cupcake liners. You need cardboard strips, thumbtacks, a needle or a pin, a pencil, and a spool. So make sure that you've got an adult helping you out with this because there are some sharp objects involved with this experiment. So what you actually wind up doing, you see here with the cardboard strips how there's these two little slits. You actually kind of make them fit together. So we're going to do that. You're also going to have the pencil that's going through the spool. That way it can kind of sit still. There's the pencil. You stick a needle through the cardboard into the eraser of the pencil. That way we're kind of holding the cardboard strips in place. You take the thumbtacks and you put them through the cupcake liners and have that attached to the ends of the cardboard strips. And then when you blow into it, it actually makes it rotate. That's how a cup anemometer works. So the faster that you blow, the faster the wind, the faster the cups move. So give that a try at home. Let me know how that works. Meanwhile, moving forward, since school is out the rest of the academic year here in Virginia, weather homeschool is going to happen about once a week. That's where I need your help. Any questions you have about the weather, anything you think we should cover, please let me know. Send me a message on Facebook, an email. You can hit me up on Twitter or Instagram as well. I'm meteorologist Chris Michaels for Weather Homeschool. We'll see you next time.